Robotron X was released for the PlayStation in 1996 and was published by Midway. And this game is a full-on remake of a classic arcade game that was very popular during the early 80s. So this game has been fully developed from the ground up, but within 3D, and utilises a lot of the original elements from that of the original arcade game, but emphasises a lot more tactics and modes that you can play in. The game itself has up to 100 different levels in which you can play in, all varying in difficulty. The game starts off relatively simple enough from the first couple of levels, but as you go through the different phases, the difficulty does gradually increase to a point that it becomes super difficult further down the line. So your goal is to rescue people throughout each of the levels, and each time you rescue them and you increase your score, you have the ability to gain extra lives. So the more lives you can accumulate, the longer you can play the game, because when you die you are pretty much respawned within the level, but the enemies that you had dispatched and killed in the meantime will still be gone, so you just have the remaining few enemies left to take out on the level. Now, to say that this game is easy, it's not. The idea and the concept behind it is simple. As you're running around the map just shooting everything that moves, but the game isn't easy. As I mentioned, it does gradually increase in difficulty the further you get into the game. Now, the game itself did get positive reviews in the magazines, but it was also somewhat criticised due to the somewhat linear nature of the gameplay, as literally you're just moving around similar maps and you're just shooting everything that moves. Even though the gameplay is fun and it can get quite addictive if you're playing it for any length of time, but you'll find because there's so many levels in the game that beyond a certain point, if you've played it for more than a half an hour, you will find it to become mentally draining, as the graphics are very simplistic and it is in a very futuristic neon style environment, but there's so many flashing lights and things going on in the environment that sometimes it can play havoc with your eyes and it can mentally and physically drain you the longer you play into the game. It'd be one of those games that you want to play it for in short bursts, that you play it for a little while and then take a break and then come back to it at a later stage, as trying to play through it for any length of time, say for an hour or more, would be too much for most gamers, and especially for people that are very sensitive with their eyes or have any sort of health conditions. Probably should avoid this game because it will cause a lot of trouble in that respect. But even with that, the gameplay is fun, even though it is quite linear, and at times when you have played it, I will admit, it can get a little bit repetitive, but mainly due to the reason of you becoming exhausted through the length of gameplay and the time you spent with it. I do remember my first ever experience with this game. I do remember staying over in one of my mates' house. I remember my mate Mark actually had a demo of this game. I remember there was a couple of different demos on that disc. There was another very, very rare game that was on it as well by the name of Trash It. It was a 2D kind of platformer where you'd like small like tubby guys running around a big massive hammer smashing the hell out of everything on the screen, and that was really good fun. But then this here demo was on it as well, and I remember myself and Mark playing for hours, just playing the demos. And even with this here, because we always wanted to try and gain the highest scores. I can't quite remember how many levels was in the demo. I think there might have been a couple of levels that you could play through, but the game was very difficult. You could get through the first level okay, but then it gradually increased. So I remember playing it quite a bit to try and see how far we could get, because the one thing I loved about the PlayStation demos is that there was always like hidden levels, or there was hidden things in it that you'd have to play through and try and figure out to unlock more stuff. There was some of those demos were a lot bigger than you'd originally first thought, and this was one of those demos from what I remember. So it was pretty cool, but it was very, very difficult. But I do remember really enjoying it, playing it. But again, it was at a time when 3D gaming was relatively new to me, and anything that I was playing on the PlayStation back then for me was like gold, because the experience anything new was just a godsend, and you just wanted to play anything that looked half decent. And I'll be honest, I loved playing the demos just as much as I loved playing the full games, and I'm sure you can agree. Some of the demo discs that you could get with the magazines had some incredible titles, even some real hidden gems, and this game was on one of those demo discs and it was worthwhile playing. There was some really cool memories and there was a lot of fun to be had with those demos, and for most of us it was our entry point into playing games on the PlayStation, but it also introduced us to a lot of games like Robotron X, because had we not played them on the demos we may never have experienced them to begin with. So I'd love to know your thoughts on Robotron X for the PlayStation, and what did you think of it? Did you manage to play the full game, or was your first experience of it through a demo demo like myself. I'd love to hear what stories you have about the game, so be sure to share them down in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated when future videos are released. And if you'd like to see more of these unique arcade style of games, similar to Robotron X that were also released on the PS1, then be sure to check out the playlist here on screen for more reviews and gameplay style videos similar to this game, so that you can see them in action. So until next time, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.